1. The silence of unreturned effort. Have you ever noticed the quiet, aching fear that whispers to you late at night? The fear that if you stopped reaching out, if you stopped being the one to text first, to check in, to make the plans, the silence would simply swallow you whole. What if the connections you are fighting so hard to keep alive are only surviving because you are doing all the breathing for them? This is a profound and exhausting emotional burden. You become the caretaker of relationships, terrified that if you let go of the rope, the other person will simply drift away. And so, you keep pulling, you overextend, you pour your energy into the empty spaces, you ignore your own exhaustion, because the alternative, discovering that they might not reach back, feels like a truth too painful to survive. You would rather feel drained than invisible. But here is the truth few people want to face. The harder you try to secure your place in someone else's life, the more you abandon your own. You are seeking safety in the very thing that is making you feel entirely unsafe. Buddhist wisdom teaches us about the deep suffering that arises from attachment. We often think of attachment as clinging to physical objects, but the most painful attachments are invisible. We attach to outcomes. We attach to the way we wish people would treat us. We attach to the idea that our effort must guarantee their presence. When we tie our self-worth to someone else's response, we place our inner peace in hands that may not even know they are holding it. Buddhism reminds us that we cannot control the actions or the awareness of others. We suffer not because people are distant, but because we are clinging to the illusion that our relentless effort can somehow force them to stay close. Imagine standing on the edge of a quiet lake, throwing stones into the water, desperately hoping the ripples will return a perfect reflection of your own face. You throw stone after stone. You exhaust your arms. You deplete your energy. But the water only ripples, disrupts the surface, and eventually returns to its own stillness. The lake is simply being a lake. It is not ignoring you out of malice. Its nature is simply to settle. You cannot force the water to hold your image by constantly disturbing it. Think about your own life. Think about the phone screens stared at in the quiet hours of the evening, the messages drafted and then deleted, the heavy, suffocating feeling in your chest when days pass and nothing comes back. You are throwing stones into the lake, waiting for an echo that was never promised to you. You are trying to prove your existence by how much you can give, hoping it will make you impossible to forget. Ask yourself, are you truly nurturing a mutual connection, or are you just terrified of the quiet? What are you afraid will happen if you simply let the water settle? Pause, breathe, observe the thought without following it. You do not have to fill every quiet space in the lives of others. You do not have to be the engine that keeps every relationship running. Let the feeling of fear rise without making it your identity. Let it pass like clouds, drifting across an endless sky. Do your part, then release the outcome. You are allowed to stop trying so hard. You are allowed to let the silence answer you, even if the answer is difficult to hear. But letting go of control is only the first step, because beneath the exhaustion of constantly reaching out is a deeper, older belief. A quiet voice whispering that, if you do not work for love, you will not receive it. And this is where the next truth begins. 2. The illusion of earning connection. What if you have been quietly paying a debt you never actually owed? Here is a truth that is hard to swallow. Deep down, many of us carry a silent, heavy belief that affection, presence, and loyalty must be earned. When someone pulls away or goes quiet, our immediate instinct is not to let them be, but to work harder. We assume we have not done enough. We become relentless overgivers. We bend ourselves into impossible shapes that perfectly fit the needs of others, desperately hoping that if we are useful enough, agreeable enough, or generous enough, they will have no choice but to stay. We turn relationships into a fragile transaction, secretly hoping that our endless effort will buy their continued love. We believe that if we stop earning our place, we will lose it. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that this exhausting cycle stems from the illusion of an incomplete self. We mistakenly believe that we are lacking and that we must constantly gather the attention of others to become whole. But true connection is never a trade. It is freely offered, not bartered. Buddhism reminds us that clinging to a false, performative version of yourself, one that must constantly prove its worth, only deepens your suffering. When you are frantically trying to earn a place in someone's life, you are no longer truly connecting with another human being. You are simply managing your own fear of abandonment. Imagine a person who discovers a rare, fragile seed. Wanting desperately for it to grow, they plant it in the earth, but then they stand over it day and night. They water it every single hour. They shield it from the wind with their own body. They block the natural sunlight with their protective shadow. They refuse to look away, terrified that, if they step back for even a moment, the seed will refuse to sprout. But a seed cannot grow when it is suffocated by desperate effort. It only bursts into life when it is given space, light, and the freedom to grow in its own time. We do this exact same thing with the people in our lives. You hover over the delicate connections you care about. You rush to text back immediately to prove you are there. You fix problems that were never yours to solve. You over-apologize for taking up space. You try to constantly curate their moods, terrified that a single moment of distance means the end. But in doing so, you cast a suffocating shadow over the very relationship you are trying to nurture. You never give the other person the space to reach for you on their own. Ask yourself, are you allowing the people in your life to naturally choose you? Or are you trying to manage them into staying? Are you loving them? Or are you just trying to control the distance between you? Pause. Breathe. The next time you feel the frantic urge to reach out and fix the quiet, do nothing. Observe the anxiety rising in your chest, but do not act on it. Step back. Let the seed rest quietly in the dark earth. Let the feeling rise without making it your identity. You do not have to perform to be worthy of presence. You do not need to earn your right to take up space. But when you finally stop frantically building bridges to everyone else, a terrifying reality sets in. You realize you are suddenly standing alone. And this is when the mind, frightened by the silence, tries to build a heavy wall to keep the pain out. 3. The danger of the protective wall. What if the fortress you built to keep out the pain is the very thing trapping you inside it? When the exhaustion of always reaching out finally breaks you, it is natural for the pendulum to swing completely in the opposite direction. If giving everything did not work, you decide you will give nothing at all. You convince yourself that if caring hurts this much, the only logical solution is to simply stop caring. You go completely silent. You pull back your energy. You build a thick, heavy wall of cold detachment, masking your deep heartbreak with a shield of false indifference. You tell yourself, I am fine on my own. I do not need anyone. But deep down, this is not true peace. It is simply a self-imposed exile. You are not free from the pain. You are just keeping it locked in a room where no one else can see it. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that aversion, the act of violently pushing something away, is just another form of attachment. When we aggressively shut out connection because we are terrified of being ignored, we are still being entirely controlled by that fear. We mistakenly believe that we are practicing detachment, but in truth, we are holding on to our bitterness with a tightly closed fist. True non-attachment is never about building walls. It is about keeping the door of your heart open, allowing people to enter and leave without being destroyed by their movement. A wall does not actually block out your suffering. It only locks the suffering inside with you. Imagine a person who has been battered by a terrible, relentless storm. Desperate for safety, they run inside a thick, windowless stone tower. They slam the heavy iron door shut and throw away the key. At first, there is a profound sense of relief. The biting rain can no longer touch them. The howling wind cannot reach them. But as the days pass, the air inside the tower grows stale. The light fades into total darkness. They are entirely safe from the storm outside, but they are also completely cut off from the warmth of the sun, the beauty of the stars, and the gentle breeze of a clear day. They have survived, but they are trapped in the dark. Think about how this fortress appears in your daily life. It is the message you read, but purposely ignore for days, just to prove to yourself that you are not desperate. It is the invitation you turn down because you assume they will eventually abandon you anyway. It is the emotional distance you stubbornly keep from new friends, convinced that they are just like the ones who left. You are sitting inside that windowless tower. You have confused shutting down with being strong. You are choosing the ache of isolation, simply to avoid the risk of being disappointed by someone else. Ask yourself, are you truly protecting your peace? Or are you just hiding from the possibility of being hurt again? Is this heavy armor making you feel genuinely safe? Or is it just making you incredibly lonely? Pause, breathe. Notice the heavy weight of the wall you have built around yourself. You do not have to tear the entire fortress down today, but perhaps you can just softly unlock the door. Let the feeling of vulnerability rise without letting it terrify you. You are not powerless. You can survive the quiet without turning it into a weapon against yourself, because shutting out the world does not heal the wound of feeling ignored. It only ensures that no one can ever reach you. Peace is not found by aggressively pretending you do not need people. It is found by learning how to sit with yourself in the empty spaces without panicking. And this brings us to the quiet work of becoming your own safe harbor. 4. The practice of gentle solitude. What if being alone does not have to mean being abandoned? Most people do not realize that there is a profound difference between being isolated and being in solitude. When you have spent so much time fearing that no one would notice your absence, the quiet moments of life start to feel like a punishment. An empty weekend, a quiet evening, a phone that does not light up, these stop being just moments of rest. They become heavy, undeniable proof that you are unwanted. So, you run from the quiet. You fill the silence with background noise. You scroll endlessly, not looking for anything in particular, just desperately seeking a distraction from the uncomfortable weight of your own company. You have convinced yourself that if you are not being witnessed by someone else, you do not truly exist. Buddhist wisdom teaches us to look closely at this discomfort. In Buddhist thought, the mind is often compared to a restless monkey, swinging frantically from branch to branch, terrified of sitting still. We suffer because we believe that happiness and safety can only be found in external validation, in the noise and attention of others. But true peace is found in the stillness. Buddhism reminds us that solitude is not an empty room, it is a profound gathering of oneself. It is the practice of sitting with your own mind, your own breath, and your own fears, and realizing that you do not need to escape. You are not empty just because you are alone. Imagine a single candle resting on a table in a quiet room. When the windows are thrown open and a chaotic wind blows through, the flame flickers wildly. It dances frantically, struggling just to stay lit, its light constantly shifting and fighting the turbulent air. But when the windows are gently closed and the wind is kept outside, the room grows perfectly still. The flame stops fighting. It burns tall, steady, and bright. The candle does not need the wind to prove it is alive. In fact, it is only in the quiet stillness that its light is truly clear. Think about your own life. Think about the evenings you spend pacing through your home, feeling a restless ache in your chest because you have no plans. Think about how quickly you reach for a screen to numb the sensation of being by yourself. You are throwing the windows open, begging for a chaotic wind to distract you because you are terrified of burning quietly on your own. You have forgotten how to simply be. Ask yourself, what are you truly running from when the room gets quiet? Are you afraid of being alone, or are you just afraid of finally hearing your own thoughts? Pause. Breathe. The next time you find yourself in an empty room, do not rush to fill it. Sit quietly for just a few moments. Let the feeling of loneliness rise without making it your identity. Let it move through you like a passing breeze. Do not judge it, just watch it. You are not powerless. You can learn to sit in the stillness without drowning. You can become a sanctuary for yourself. Because when you stop running from your own company, the silence is no longer a threat. It becomes a space for deep healing. But learning to sit peacefully with yourself is only half of the journey, because no matter how deeply you embrace solitude, you cannot meditate away the basic human longing for connection. And this is where the next truth begins. 5. Honoring the human need for others. What if pretending you do not need anyone is just another way of abandoning yourself? There is a strange kind of freedom in isolation, but it is often a fragile one. When you have been hurt by the silence of others, when you have exhausted yourself trying to keep relationships alive, it is incredibly tempting to embrace total self-sufficiency. You start to believe that needing people is a weakness. You tell yourself that if you never expect a text, a call, or a comforting word, you can never be disappointed. You wear your independence like heavy armor. You smile, you go to work, you manage your own life perfectly, and you aggressively ignore the quiet, persistent ache in your chest that simply wishes someone would ask how you are doing. You have convinced yourself that strong people do not need anyone. But here is the truth. Denying your need for connection does not make you enlightened. It just makes you lonely. Buddhist wisdom teaches the profound concept of interconnectedness. In Buddhist thought, nothing in the universe exists entirely on its own. A cloud cannot exist without the sun to evaporate the water, and the river cannot exist without the rain. We are all deeply woven together. Acknowledging that you need others is not a sign of emotional failure. It is simply the truth of human existence. Buddhism reminds us that the goal of inner peace is not to become completely unattached from the human race. The goal is to love, connect, and share your life without clinging to people so tightly that you crush the joy out of the connection. You can be whole on your own and still naturally long for the warmth of another. Imagine a towering ancient tree standing in the middle of a vast forest. From a distance, the tree looks completely self-reliant. Its trunk is thick, its bark is tough, and it stretches high into the sky on its own. But beneath the dark earth, away from the visible world, its roots are deeply intertwined with the roots of every other tree in the forest. When a storm comes, they hold each other steady. When the soil is dry, they share nutrients. The tree is incredibly strong, but its strength does not come from being entirely alone. To pretend the tree does not need the forest is to fundamentally misunderstand its nature. Think about your own life. Think about the days you feel completely overwhelmed by work, stress, or sadness, and you purposely shut everyone out. You refuse to ask for help. You sit in your heavy armor, convincing yourself that reaching out would be a burden. Or worse, that if you reached out, no one would catch you. You are trying to be a tree with no roots. You are confusing true peace with absolute isolation. Ask yourself, are you genuinely content, or are you just heavily guarded? Are you denying your own humanity just to avoid the risk of being disappointed? Pause, breathe, observe the thought without following it. You do not have to pretend you are perfectly fine on your own all the time. Let the feeling of longing rise without making it your identity. Let yourself quietly admit that you want companionship, without feeling ashamed of it. You are allowed to need people. You are allowed to leave the door open, because true strength is not cutting yourself off from the world. It is knowing you belong to it, even when the world feels distant. But to let people in safely, without losing yourself again, you have to stop keeping a record of who owes you their time. And this is where the next truth begins. 6. Releasing the scorecard of affection. What if your attempt to measure love is exactly what is suffocating it? Here is a truth that is deeply uncomfortable. When we have been hurt by feeling ignored, we often start keeping a silent, meticulous record of every interaction. We build a mental scorecard. We track who texted first. We remember exactly how many days it has been since someone asked us how we are doing. We wait 3 hours to reply because they took 3 hours to reply. We convince ourselves that this ledger is a form of self-respect, a way to ensure we never overextend ourselves for the wrong people again. But this constant auditing of affection does not protect you. It only breeds a quiet, heavy resentment. When you treat relationships like a strict transaction, every moment of silence feels like a debt that someone has failed to pay. Buddhist wisdom teaches that true generosity must be offered without a heavy string attached to it. When we give our time, our words, or our care, with the secret expectation of a perfectly matched return, we are not truly giving. We are making a trade. Buddhism reminds us that much of our suffering comes from this conditional approach to life. We attach our inner peace to a specific, measurable outcome. But love, presence, and kindness are not currency. When you constantly measure how much you are receiving against how much you are giving, you trap yourself in an endless cycle of perceived scarcity. Imagine a river flowing down a mountain toward a vast, open ocean. As it moves, it nourishes the soil, waters the roots of the trees, and shapes the stones. The river never stops to count how many drops of water it has given to a particular patch of grass. It does not demand that the ocean flow backward up the mountain to return the favor. Its very nature is simply to flow. If you were to build a heavy stone dam across the river, obsessed with measuring every single drop to ensure everything was perfectly fair, the river would stop moving. The water would stagnate. The life around it would slowly wither. The attempt to control the flow ruins the water itself. Think about how you navigate the connections in your own life. Think about the warmth you hold back because you are afraid the other person has not earned it today. Think about the bitter satisfaction of ignoring someone just to balance the scales of who cares less. You are building a heavy dam across your own heart. You are stopping the natural flow of your own kindness simply because you are terrified of being the one who loves more. Ask yourself, are you genuinely loving the people in your life, or are you just keeping score? What would happen if you simply threw away the heavy ledger? Pause, breathe, observe the thought without following it. The next time you want to reach out, do it because you want to, not to test if they will answer. If you want to pull back and rest, do it because your spirit needs quiet, not to punish someone for their silence. Do your part, then release the outcome. You do not need to constantly balance the scales to be safe. You are allowed to let affection flow naturally without measuring its return, because true peace is never found in a perfectly balanced scorecard. It is found in the deep freedom of giving without fear. But to stop measuring how others treat you, you must first understand who you truly are when the room is entirely empty. And this is where the next truth begins. 7. The mirror of true belonging. What if you have been looking for your own reflection in a broken mirror? Most people do not realize how deeply we rely on the reactions of others to feel alive. We treat the attention, the text messages, and the invitations of the world like a constant confirmation that we matter. When the phone is loud and the plans are full, we feel visible. But when the silence settles, and the effort is not returned, we immediately look at ourselves and assume something is deeply wrong. We think, if no one is looking for me, I must not be worth finding. We allow the absence of another person's attention to erase our own sense of existence. We become beggars for validation, searching for a crumb of acknowledgement just to prove we are still here. But one of the deepest lessons of Buddhism is that your true nature is already entirely whole, vast, and unbroken. In Buddhist thought, your inherent worth is like the sun, it is always shining, even when it is completely obscured by heavy clouds. You do not need to gather pieces of your identity from the opinions or the presence of others. True belonging is not about being accepted by a group or being constantly remembered by a friend. True belonging is the sacred realization that you already belong to this very moment, to this very earth, and to your own life. It is the shift from seeking a home in someone else's heart to realizing you are already home within yourself. Imagine a beautiful, still lake nestled high in the mountains at night. The sky above is clear, and a bright, full moon shines down. When you look at the surface of the lake, you see a perfect, silver reflection of the moon dancing on the water. Now imagine a sudden wind blows through the valley. The water becomes rough, the ripples multiply, and the reflection of the moon breaks apart into 1,000 shattered pieces of light. But has the actual moon in the sky changed? Has it been shattered? No. The moon remains perfectly calm, completely round, and entirely untouched by the chaos of the water below. The breaking was only an illusion on the surface. Think about your own life. Think about how often you treat the attention of others, like the surface of that lake. When someone ignores your message, or when a relationship drifts away, the surface of your life ripples. You feel broken, scattered, and erased. But you are not the reflection on the water. You are the moon in the sky. The silence of another human being cannot diminish your light. Their inability to reach back does not shatter your reality. Their distraction belongs to them. Your wholeness belongs to you. Ask yourself, whose mirror have you been looking into to find out who you are? Have you been letting the silence of an unreturned effort convince you that you are invisible? Pause, breathe. Observe the thought without following it. Look inward right now. Feel the simple, steady rhythm of your own heart. Feel the solid earth beneath your feet. You are alive. You are here. You do not need a notification, a phone call, or a forced conversation to validate your presence. Let the fear of being forgotten rise, and then let it pass like a ripple on the water, because you do not need to chase anyone to prove you exist. You are already whole. But knowing your own worth is only the foundation. The true journey is learning how to step back out into the world with an open heart, without falling into the old trap of overextending. And this is where the next truth begins. 8. Walking with an open heart. What if you could love the people in your life deeply, without needing them to stay exactly where you placed them? When we finally stop frantically chasing people, and we stop building heavy walls of resentment, a new fear quietly emerges. How do we actually interact with the world now? We are terrified of slipping back into our old habits of overextending and overcaring. We fear that if we open our hearts again, we will immediately return to the exhausting cycle of earning love. So, we hesitate. We hold our affection back. We hover carefully in the middle ground, afraid to care too much, afraid that if we reach out freely, we will once again be destroyed by the silence. Buddhist wisdom teaches us the profound difference between love and attachment. We often confuse the two. We believe that to love someone is to hold on to them tightly, to control the distance between you, to ensure they never slip away. But Buddhism reminds us that attachment is rooted in fear, the desperate fear of loss. True love, in contrast, is rooted in freedom. It is the practice of loving someone exactly as they are in this moment, without demanding that they fulfill your emotional needs or cure your loneliness in return. You can offer warmth, kindness, and presence while fully accepting the impermanence of the connection. Imagine a person walking into a quiet, wild meadow and holding out an open hand. After a moment, a small, delicate bird lands softly on their palm. The person feels a sudden rush of joy, but quickly they become terrified that the bird will fly away. To secure the connection, to ensure the bird never leaves, they slowly close their fingers into a tight fist. In their desperate attempt to keep the beauty of the moment, they crush the very thing they loved. But what if they simply left their hand open? The bird might stay, or it might take flight and disappear into the trees. But either way, the hand remains soft, peaceful, and open to whatever lands next. Think about your own life. Think about sending a message to a friend simply because you thought of them, and then completely putting your phone away, unbothered by when they reply. Think about offering your time or an invitation without a secret, heavy agenda to secure their loyalty. You are standing in the meadow with an open hand. You are participating in the warmth of human connection, but you are no longer trying to trap it. You are letting people be exactly who they are, distracted, distant, close, or inconsistent, without letting their behavior dictate your inner peace. Ask yourself, are you ready to stop closing your fist? Are you willing to offer your kindness without demanding an emotional receipt? Pause, breathe. Observe the urge to control the connection. Let the feeling of vulnerability rise without making it your identity. Let it pass. Do your part, then release the outcome. You do not have to harden your heart to survive the silence of others. You can be soft, you can be loving, and you can be entirely free at the same time. You can stop pretending you do not need people while also accepting that you cannot force them to stay, because true safety is not about ensuring no one ever leaves. And this brings us to the final truth of who you are becoming. 9. The freedom of being whole. Remember that quiet, aching fear we spoke about at the very beginning, the terrifying thought that if you stopped being the one to reach out, if you stopped carrying the heavy weight of the connection, the silence would simply swallow you whole. You have spent so much of your life trying to outrun that exact silence. You believed it meant you were invisible. But what if that quiet space was never a threat, but a profound invitation? Look back at the exhausting path you have walked. You threw stones into the lake, desperately trying to force the water to reflect your worth. You hovered over the fragile seed, blocking its natural light, because you were terrified it would not grow without your constant intervention. You built a heavy, windowless stone tower to protect yourself from the storm, only to realize you had locked the deep loneliness inside with you. You kept a meticulous scorecard of every unreturned message, turning the beautiful, natural flow of affection into a rigid and painful transaction. You did all of this because your mind convinced you that if you did not fiercely fight for your place in the world, you would cease to exist. But you do not have to fight anymore. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that the struggle ends the moment you accept your own inherent completeness. You do not need to constantly build bridges to prove you are alive. Non-attachment is not about pushing the world away in a fit of bitter independence. It is about letting the river flow at its own natural pace. It is about keeping your hand soft and open in the meadow, allowing the connections in your life to land, to rest, and sometimes to gently fly away. You are the moon in the quiet night sky, perfectly whole, deeply vast, and completely untouched by the restless ripples of who is pulling away or who forgot to call. The true transformation happens when you finally become safe company for yourself. When you no longer fear the empty room, you no longer have to aggressively perform for the people in it. You do not have to pretend you are a solitary tree with no roots. You can finally admit that you are human. You can admit that you deeply value connection, that you long for the warmth of others, and that you love feeling seen. But you can stand in that truth from a place of deep, unshakable peace, rather than a place of quiet panic. You are not abandoning others by choosing to rest. You are simply returning to yourself. Think about your life starting today. If someone naturally drifts away when you gently drop your end of the rope, let them drift. Do not chase them into the distance. Their absence is not a reflection of your worth, and their silence is not a final judgment on your soul. It is simply the nature of the water settling. You can stop trying to manage the distance between you and the rest of the world. You can stop earning your right to take up space. Let the feeling of deep trust rise within you. Let life happen without your constant, exhausting effort. You are allowed to let the silence answer you, and you are finally strong enough to sit in it. If these lessons touched your heart, share this video with someone who may need a little more peace today. You can let go now,